Speaking of politicians that we care about, we have a young Bengali American running for Congress. Coming up next, everyone, please give it up for Shaan Chowdhury.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, dude.
Sure.
This is so great meeting you. And I mean, I've heard a lot about you. We've been...
I hope some good things.
You know, there are some things on the internet that we're questioning. No, I'm kidding. No, none of that. We looked you up. We had to do our research and everything. And we're really proud to know about how progressive and how down for the cause you are.
For sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, what got you into this realm?
Yeah, to be honest, I had no plan on running for Congress whatsoever. This is just kind of happened with everything that's been going on like the last few years. And I got involved in like organizing after like Hurricane Sandy, knowing how like really important climate change really does affect us. You know, it's like who would have thought Hurricane Sandy would have like hit, you know, the Queens, right? Like especially the Rockaways, Brooklyn, Staten Island. I'm like, all right, this is like an important issue.
Yeah.
And then when we look at our home country in Bangladesh, like that country is going to be underwater not too long from now.
Yeah.
And like, you know, we're losing water, we're losing land. So these are desperate times. Mm-hmm. So climate change has been like a huge issue to me. But then, you know, I played rugby, so I always thought I was going to go out, become an athlete. I ended up tearing my meniscus MCL in 2017, 2016.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. It was kind of like it was kind of bittersweet because after that happened, I decided to, you know what, let me buckle down, stay focused on my schoolwork, let's see what happens. And I needed just like 12 more credits to graduate from John Jay. Mm-hmm. And there was an internship that came up in the New York State Assembly, and that's when I got my first taste into politics. So I actually went up to Albany, interned in State Assembly. I got back, and that's when like AOC had happened.
Yeah.
You know, so got involved in AOC's campaign, and then eventually I ended up here.
You mentioned climate change. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're running and things like that? Because we went on your website, and honestly, we were confused. Okay, because I was like, what is he running for? I mean, we're a bunch of comedy writers. We don't know what's going on. When I saw New York 5, I was like, is that a gang? What is that? So why don't you tell us a little bit about the areas that you're running for?
Yeah, so...
And what you're running for.
Yeah, so I'm running for Congress in New York 5, which is predominantly the greater parts of Jamaica, Queens. Mm-hmm. And then we have the Rockaways and Nassau County, so we have Elmont Valley Stream. Mm-hmm. It's a predominantly working class neighborhood, 50% African Americans, and the other 20% make up Latinos and South Asians. So it's all Black and people of color, probably the most diverse district in Queens. Mm-hmm. People come from South America, South Asia, in the Caribbean, Africa, you name it. So we have a lot of good food.
Yeah,
you know?
It is a lot of good food in that area. It's great. I'm in the Ozone Park, East New York area.
Okay, so it's like right there.
I can't vote for you, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
It sucks. I know,
volunteer though.
Huh?
You can volunteer though.
Can I?
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'll think about it. Yeah. We'll see. You're trying to get me to volunteer. What am I
Got her on tape.
Can I get college credits?
Actually, you can.
How do you volunteer?
How do you volunteer?
So how you volunteer, you just email us at info@Shaan, SHAN2020.com.
Okay. So kids, get on that. Figure out how to volunteer for this guy.
You get high school and college credits.
Yeah, there you go. And you did something important. What made you run for Congress now? Like, what was
I think what did it for me was shortly after AOC's campaign, I actually went down to the Tijuana border. This is when the whole like caravan crisis was going on, and Trump had decided to send the military down to the border. So I organized with other veterans who are like, I'm friends with, and we're like, let's be on the opposition, and show that we have veterans who really care about the issues of just like basic human rights. So we went down there, and we got to listen to so many stories, so many people who were coming from Africa and Central South America, and they're just like stuck at the border just trying to seek asylum. Mm-hmm. And vast majority of these people are mother and children. And it should tell you that, they have nowhere else to go, considering that it's our U.S. government that had really decimated the environment down there. So the way of living is because of us, what our government has done. Creating poverty, creating a decimated government, right, that hasn't been working. Every time when they have democracy, it's overthrown to ensure that socialism doesn't spread. So and we hear these stories that they're heartbreaking. And when I got back, I actually went to my Congress member. I actually called him on Twitter too. So I did it in a very millennial fashion. Instead of going to the office, I'm like, let me go on social media.
You went Twitter fingers on him.
I did. So it's public. I'm like, hey, you sit on the Foreign Affairs Committee. You represent Queens, the most diverse place in the world. Have a strong stance on immigration, right? I'm like, listen, this is what I saw. Can you ensure that their human rights weren't being violated, making sure that their sound cases were being processed, making sure that, that they had medical aid, and he just said we needed more bed space for them in these detention centers that we were caging up children in. And I'm like, that's your answer? Like, that's it? So, coming from like a working class Bengali family, it frustrated me.
Yeah.
I was like livid. So that's when I decided.
We're not asking for more beds.
We're
trying to get them out of the detention center. That's really frustrating.
So that was pretty much it for me right there.
Okay, so that was your catalyst, basically.
Yeah.
So you mentioned socialism and the economy in South America. What do you say to people when they bring up Venezuela? Yeah.
I think that Venezuela is not the only example of socialism. When we look at first world nations like Denmark, when you look at Finland, it does work. And especially coming from the U.S., we are the richest nation in the world. And you're telling me we have some of the lowest rates of health outcomes. We have some of the highest rates of mass incarceration. It's really about priorities. If we could spend $5.6 trillion on wars, why can't we spend $5.6 trillion towards addressing climate change, the healthcare system?
Yeah.
So it's about what our priorities are.
And that's coming from a veteran. So and I see a lot of veterans who stand up for these things the same way that you do, even like Colin Kaepernick and things like that, where they're just like, no, he has the right to kneel. Like, that's what we're fighting for, his freedom to do, First Amendment.
And you would think like a lot of these things are like common sense issues, but apparently just like a lot of people are just like really stuck with especially with what's going on with Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
I guess we'll go into that too, but I understand people want to go back to like what is perceived normal, but going to what is normal is going backwards. Like, we need to continue going forward, So it's painful.